The waitress dropped her wallet and the millionaire froze when he saw the photo inside. It was the same photo of his beloved who disappeared 23 years ago. The clinking of fine china and the soft murmur of conversations filled the elegant dining room of the Grand Magnolia Hotel. Chicago's business elite gathered here each morning, their Italian suits and designer watches glinting under crystal chandeliers. Among them moved Chloe Parker, her crisp black uniform a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding her. "More coffee, sir?" she asked, her smile practiced but genuine. The man barely looked up from his Wall Street journal, merely extending his cup without a word of acknowledgement. At 25, Chloe had perfected the art of becoming invisible while remaining attentive. 5 years of serving Chicago's wealthiest had taught her that the less they noticed her, the better her tips would be. Not that the tips ever amounted to much. The rich, she learned, rarely parted easily with their money. "Table 9 needs their check," hissed Vivian, the floor manager, as she brushed past. "And for God's sake, smile more. These people pay our salaries." Chloe nodded, resisting the urge to point out that these people paid Vivian's salary, her own barely covered rent for the cramped 2-bedroom apartment she shared with Grandma Betty on the south side. As she moved between tables, Chloe's hand instinctively touched the small pocket sewn inside her uniform, a modification she'd made herself. Inside lay her most precious possession, a worn photograph, its edges softened by years of handling. A woman with eyes just like her own, holding a baby wrapped in a yellow blanket. It was all she had of her mother. That, and the broken half of a silver pendant shaped like a crescent moon that hung around her neck, hidden beneath her uniform. "I know it's silly," Grandma Betty would say when she caught Chloe looking at the photo, "but I think she'd be proud of you, sweetheart." Betty wasn't her biological grandmother. That much Chloe knew. Betty had taken her in as an infant, a story with details that grew vaguer with each telling. "Your mama loved you," was all Betty would say with certainty. "Never doubt that." The morning rush was slowing when the dining room's atmosphere shifted subtly. Heads turned, voices lowered. Henry Callahan had arrived. Even Chloe, who prided herself on her disinterest in the city's power players, recognized him instantly. His silver hair and commanding presence had graced enough magazine covers and news segments to make him unmistakable. Owner of Callahan Industries, with holdings in everything from real estate to pharmaceuticals. He was Chicago royalty. "Mr. Callahan's usual table," Vivian whispered urgently, materializing at Chloe's side. "You'll serve him today," Monica called in sick. "But I've never... Just don't spill anything on his $3,000 suit, and we'll all survive," Vivian said, already gliding away to greet the billionaire. Chloe's heart hammered as she approached table 1. The best in the house. With views of both Millennium Park and Lake Michigan, Henry Callahan sat alone, his back straight, eyes scanning a tablet that likely contained information worth millions. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to the Grand Magnolia. May I bring you some coffee?" Chloe kept her voice steady, professional. Callahan looked up, and for a moment, Chloe felt a strange jolt. His eyes, a striking blue-gray, seemed to look through her rather than at her. Then he blinked, and the moment passed. Black coffee, 2 poached eggs on sourdough toast, no butter. His voice was deep, clipped. "Yes, sir. Right away." As she turned to leave, the tablet on the table beeped. Callahan reached for it just as Chloe stepped back, and their hands collided. His leather portfolio fell to the floor, papers spilling out along with a sleek Mont Blanc pen that rolled under the table. "I'm so sorry." Chloe dropped to her knees, frantically gathering the scattered documents. Her hands trembled as she collected what looked like contracts with figures that made her eyes widen. "It's fine," Callahan said tightly, kneeling beside her. As Chloe reached for the last paper, she felt something slip from her pocket. The photograph. It slid across the polished marble floor, coming to rest directly at Callahan's feet. He picked it up before she could reach it. Something in his expression changed as he looked at the image. A flicker of shock, quickly masked. "This is yours." His voice had lost its commanding edge. "Yes, sir, it's my mother," Chloe said, reaching for it. "My only photo of her." Callahan didn't immediately hand it back. His eyes remained fixed on the woman's face, his complexion suddenly ashen. "Sir, are you all right?" Chloe asked, concern overriding her embarrassment. He seemed to come back to himself, extending the photo with a hand that wasn't quite steady. "Yes, of course, your mother. She died when I was a baby," Chloe replied, carefully tucking the photo back into her pocket. "I never knew her." For a moment, she thought she saw something like pain cross his features. Then his expression shuddered, becoming once again the impassive mask of a man, accustomed to controlling every situation. "I apologize for your loss," he said formally. "And for the collision, please bring my coffee when you have a moment." Throughout the rest of her shift, Chloe caught Callahan watching her, not in the way some wealthy men observe the female staff. There was nothing predatory in his gaze. Instead, he seemed to be studying her features with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. When he finally left, leaving a $100 tip on a $30 bill, Chloe felt herself exhale for what seemed like the first time in hours. That evening, as she trudged up the stairs to their apartment, weariness weighed on every limb. The building's elevator had been out of service for months, and the 5-flight climb after a double shift felt like scaling Everest. She found Grandma Betty in her usual spot by the window, her arthritis-gnarled hands working steadily on a quilt. At 73, Betty Washington had the energy of a woman 20 years younger, despite the physical pain that was her constant companion. "There's my girl," Betty smiled, her dark face creasing with warmth. "Rough day. The usual," Chloe said, dropping her bag and sinking onto their worn couch. "Except I almost spilled coffee on Henry Callahan." Betty's hands stilled, the needle poised mid-stitch. "Henry Callahan at your hotel. Apparently he comes in often. I've just never served him before." Chloe frowned, noticing the sudden tension in her grandmother's posture. "Do you know him?" "Know him, child. Half of Chicago knows who Henry Callahan is," Betty said, resuming her stitching with careful deliberation. "Man's face is on billboards taller than this building." "No. I mean, you seemed surprised when I mentioned his name." "Just surprised such a big shot would eat at your little hotel is all," Betty said, not meeting Chloe's eyes. "Did you speak to him?" "A little. I dropped his portfolio. And then," Chloe hesitated, remembering the strange moment, "my photo of Mom fell out of my pocket. He saw it, and he acted. Weird, like he was seeing a ghost." The quilt slipped from Betty's lap as she stood abruptly, her joints protesting. "What did he say to you?" "Nothing really. Just asked if she was my mother," Chloe said, startled by Betty's reaction. "Grandma, what's wrong?" Betty's face composed itself, the momentary alarm replaced by her usual gentle expression. "Nothing, baby. Just an old woman's nerves. Tell me about the rest of your day." But as Chloe talked, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. First in Henry Callahan's eyes when he saw the photograph, and now in her grandmother's careful avoidance of her gaze. Neither of them could have known that across town, in a penthouse overlooking the city, Henry Callahan sat in darkness, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand, staring at a wall safe he hadn't opened in 23 years. Inside was another photograph, of the same woman, with the same smile, and half of a silver pendant in the shape of a crescent moon. Henry Callahan couldn't sleep. The photograph played on repeat in his mind. Rebecca's face, those eyes he'd know anywhere, the curve of her smile. Even after 23 years, the wound felt fresh. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse, watching the city glitter beneath him, a kingdom he'd built that felt suddenly hollow. With a decisive motion, he crossed to the wall safe hidden behind an abstract painting, a purchase Rebecca had once teased him about. $3 million for splashes of paint. Your money would be better spent on diapers for our little one." She'd laughed, her hand resting protectively on her growing belly. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside lay a velvet pouch he hadn't touched in decades. His hands trembled slightly as he withdrew it, a weakness he would permit himself only in solitude. The photograph inside was worn around the edges from the times he'd held it in those first desperate months after she vanished. Rebecca Hunter, 22 years old, her auburn hair catching sunlight, that infectious smile aimed directly at the camera. At him, the picture had been taken on Lake Michigan, the weekend he told her he loved her. Beside the photograph lay a silver half-moon pendant on a broken chain. He ran his thumb over its smooth surface, remembering how the complete necklace had looked around Rebecca's neck, a gift for her 21st birthday, before he'd even gathered the courage to ask her out. "Where did you go?" he whispered to the empty room. The memories rushed back with startling clarity. Summer 2002, he'd been 28. Already showing promise at his father's company, but still proving himself, Rebecca had been working as a teaching assistant while finishing her master's in early childhood education. They'd met at a charity auction where she'd outbid him on a first edition children's book. "My students need this more than your trophy shelf does," she'd told him with a challenging smile. 6 months later, she'd moved into his lakefront apartment. His father had disapproved. She wasn't from their social circle, had no valuable connections to offer. Barbara, his younger sister, had been openly hostile. "She's after your money, Henry," Barbara had insisted during one particularly heated argument. "Why else would someone like her be with someone like you?" But Rebecca had never cared about his wealth. She wore simple clothes, drove a second-hand car, and put most of her salary into her student loan payments. What she'd loved was his hidden passion for literature, his dry humor, the way he could sit for hours discussing her research on early childhood development. When she told him she was pregnant, Henry had felt his world expand. He'd proposed that night, but Rebecca had been practical. "Let's wait until after the baby comes," she'd said. "I want to make sure you're proposing to me, not just doing the honorable thing," he'd agreed, respecting her independence while secretly planning their future. A house in the suburbs, the best schools, weekends at the lake house, a life so different from the calculated power moves and corporate maneuvering that defined the Callahan name. Then, in her 8th month, she'd vanished. No note, no call. Her clothes still in the closet, prenatal vitamins on the nightstand. The police had found her car abandoned near the lakefront, her purse inside with wallet and ID intact. No signs of struggle, no witnesses. The official theory had been suicide. A pregnant woman who changed her mind about motherhood, walked into Lake Michigan one night. Henry had never believed it. Rebecca had been ecstatic about the baby, had already painted the nursery, chosen names. Henry had hired private investigators, offered rewards, appeared on television pleading for information. Nothing. After a year, the police closed the case. After 2, most people stopped mentioning her name around him. After 5, even he had stopped actively searching, though he never stopped wondering. Now, staring at the waitress's photograph, the same woman, unmistakably Rebecca, holding an infant. His world tilted on its axis. Henry sank into his leather chair, mind racing. The waitress, Chloe, according to her name tag, looked to be in her mid-20s. Her eyes were Rebecca's. The shape of her face, that determined set of her jaw and around her neck, barely visible beneath her uniform. He'd caught a glimpse of something silver. The timing fit. The resemblance was undeniable. But if this was their daughter, where was Rebecca? And who was the older woman Chloe had mentioned raising her? With sudden purpose, Henry reached for his phone. "Frank, it's Henry Callahan. I need your services again, discreetly." Frank Porter had been his most effective investigator during those desperate years. If anyone could uncover the truth without causing a stir, it was him. "I need everything you can find on a Chloe. Last name unknown. Waitress at the Grand Magnolia Hotel, mid-20s, lives with an elderly woman she calls her grandmother. By morning, preliminary information appeared in his secure email. Chloe Marie Parker, 25, address in South Chicago, employed at the Grand Magnolia for 5 years. Clean record, unremarkable background. High school diploma, 2 years at community college before dropping out. Financial reasons, likely. Her grandmother, Elizabeth Betty Washington, 73, had been listed as her guardian since infancy. Henry froze, staring at the next line. Betty Washington, former domestic employee of Callahan Estate. 1998-2003. His household staff, Betty had worked in his family's home during those exact years, when he'd been with Rebecca, when Rebecca had disappeared. This couldn't be coincidence. Henry dressed with mechanical precision, mind still processing. At 51, he maintained the same disciplined fitness that had been his outlet for grief all these years. His reflection showed a man whom time had hardened rather than weakened. Silver at the temples, lines at the eyes that spoke of calculation rather than laughter. During the drive downtown, he called his assistant. "Clear my schedule for the week. Family emergency. Your sister has been trying to reach you." "Sir, about the Southside Development Project." Henry's jaw tightened. Barbara now served as Callahan Industries' CFO. Her natural talent for numbers matched only by her ruthless approach to business. The Southside project was her baby. Luxury condos replacing underperforming neighborhoods. Neighborhoods like the one where Chloe and Betty lived. Tell her I'll call her back. At the Grand Magnolia, he took his usual table, ordered his usual breakfast, and waited. When Chloe appeared, intentionally assigned to him again, he suspected, he studied her more carefully, noting the grace with which she moved, the quiet dignity in her manner, Rebecca's influence, unmistakably. "Will there be anything else, sir?" she asked as she refilled his coffee. "How long have you worked here, Chloe?" Surprise flickered across her face at the personal question. 5 years, sir. You must be good at what you do. Most people don't stay in one place that long." A cautious smile. "My grandmother needs stability, and the health insurance is decent." "Your grandmother. She raised you." The smile faded, wariness replacing it. "Yes, since I was a baby. And your mother, when did she pass away?" Chloe's hand tightened imperceptibly around the coffee pot. "I should check on your order." "Sir." As she walked away, Henry noticed a woman watching from near the kitchen. Chloe's manager, judging by her attire. She approached his table with a professional smile. "Mr. Callahan, I hope everything is to your satisfaction." "Perfectly adequate." He paused. "That young waitress, Chloe, she seems quite capable. One of our best." "Sir, I'm hosting a private dinner next week. I could use additional staff with her level of discretion." The manager practically glowed at the implied compliment to her team. "I'm sure she'd be honored, sir. I'll have her contact information sent to your office." Henry nodded, satisfied with the day's progress. He'd found a way in. Now he just needed to find out what Betty Washington knew about the daughter he'd never met, and the woman he'd never stopped loving. The apartment was quiet when Chloe returned home that evening. She found Grandma Betty at the kitchen table, staring at an old shoebox pulled from the depths of her closet. Scattered photographs and yellowed newspaper clippings covered the worn Formica tabletop. "Grandma, what's all this?" Chloe set down her grocery bags, noting the tension in Betty's posture. "Just old memories, child." Betty's hands trembled slightly as she gathered the photos. "Nothing important." Chloe caught a glimpse of one photo before it disappeared into the box. A much younger Betty standing in front of an imposing mansion, wearing what looked like a housekeeper's uniform. "Is that from when you worked for that rich family before me?" Chloe had heard vague references to Betty's previous employment with a wealthy Chicago family, but details had always been scarce. Betty snapped the box shut. That was a lifetime ago. How was work today? Strange. Chloe pulled out a chair and sat heavily. "That businessman I told you about, Callahan, he was there again. Asked for me specifically." Betty's knuckles whitened around the edge of the shoebox. "What did he want?" "Asked how long I'd worked there. Then about you, and about Mom." Chloe frowned. It felt weird, like he was fishing for something. "You stay away from that man," Betty said, her voice uncharacteristically sharp. "Rich folks like that, they don't talk to people like us unless they want something. That's the thing. He offered me a job, extra work at some private dinner, double my usual pay." Chloe pulled the business card from her pocket. "Vivian said I'd be crazy not to take it." Betty snatched the card, staring at it with an expression Chloe couldn't decipher. "I already said yes," Chloe continued. "We need the money, Grandma. Your prescriptions went up again, and the building management's threatening another rent increase." Betty closed her eyes briefly, as if in silent prayer. When she opened them, her usual calm had returned. "You're right, baby. We do need the money. Just be careful around him. Don't answer personal questions. Why are you so worried about him? Did you know him when you worked for that family?" "It was a long time ago." Betty stood, wincing as her knees protested. "I'm tired, child. Let's talk tomorrow." Chloe watched her grandmother shuffle to her bedroom, the shoebox clutched protectively against her chest. In 25 years, she'd never seen Betty act this way. Secretive, almost frightened the next morning. Chloe discovered Betty had already left for her part-time job at the neighborhood community center. Unusual, given that Thursdays were typically Betty's day to rest her arthritic joints. Across town, Henry Callahan sat in his private office, reviewing Frank Porter's latest report. The investigator had been thorough, tracking down Betty Washington's employment records with the Callahan household. She was primarily assigned to the East Wing housekeeping staff. Frank explained over the secure line. "That was your personal residence on the estate at the time. Did she have direct contact with Rebecca?" "According to staff interviews, Ms. Washington was occasionally assigned to the suite you shared with Ms. Hunter. Some remembered them as friendly." Henry pinched the bridge of his nose. "And after Rebecca's disappearance, Ms. Washington resigned approximately 3 months later, cited family reasons, no forwarding address left with HR. 3 months. Henry's mind raced. That would have been around the time Rebecca's due date would have passed. "There's something else," Frank said. "I tracked down Mrs. Washington's rental history. She moved into her current apartment 24 years ago, but the initial lease application listed just one occupant. 6 months later, she amended it to include an infant dependent." Henry's heart pounded. "The timing fits perfectly, sir." After ending the call, Henry sat motionless, processing the implications. Betty Washington had left his family's employment shortly after Rebecca vanished, then suddenly acquired an infant she claimed as her granddaughter. The baby, Chloe, would have been born around Rebecca's due date. His intercom buzzed. "Sir, your sister is here." "She's quite insistent." Henry suppressed a surge of irritation. "Send her in." Barbara Callahan swept into the office like a cold front, designer heels clicking sharply against the hardwood floor. At 49, she remained striking. The same Callahan blue-gray eyes as Henry, but with their father's calculating edge. "3 canceled meetings, Henry. The board is getting restless about the South Side project." She settled into a chair uninvited. "We need your signature on the demolition contracts by Monday. I've been dealing with a personal matter." Barbara's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. "Personal? You haven't had anything personal in your life since—" She stopped abruptly. "Since Rebecca," Henry supplied. "Interesting you should mention her." Something flickered in Barbara's eyes. So quickly Henry might have missed it if he hadn't been watching for it. "That was decades ago, Henry. Ancient history." "Is it?" He leaned forward. "What if I told you I have reason to believe Rebecca's child, our child, is alive?" The color drained from Barbara's face. "That's absurd." "The police concluded that she likely drowned herself." "Yes, I remember. I never believed it." Henry studied his sister's reaction. "But now I've found a young woman who looks exactly like Rebecca, who was raised by our former housekeeper, who was born exactly when our child would have been." Barbara's composure returned with practiced speed. "You always did have an unhealthy obsession with that woman. This sounds like another wild goose chase." "Does it?" Betty Washington quit 3 months after Rebecca disappeared. She suddenly had an infant with no father in the picture. Henry let the implications hang in the air. Barbara stood abruptly. "I have a meeting. We'll discuss the South Side contracts tomorrow." She paused at the door. "And Henry, be careful about dredging up the past. It rarely leads anywhere good." After she left, Henry stared at the closed door, replaying her reaction. The momentary shock, the quick recovery, the warning. His desk phone rang, the private line. "Mr. Callahan, it's Betty Washington. We need to talk. Not at my home, not at your office." Her voice was low, urgent. "There's a community garden on Oakley Avenue, 2 o'clock. The line went dead before he could respond. At precisely 2, Henry found himself in a small urban garden tucked between apartment buildings. Betty Washington sat on a bench near a plot of tomato plants, her posture rigid despite her age. "You shouldn't have approached her," Betty said without preamble as he sat beside her. "You're putting her in danger." "Is she my daughter?" Henry asked directly. Betty's eyes, clouded with cataracts but still sharp, assessed him. "You need to stop asking questions for her sake. I have a right to know my own child." "Rights." Betty's laugh was bitter. "Where were those rights when your sister threatened to have me arrested if I ever told anyone where the baby came from? Where were they when she made it clear what would happen to that innocent child if I didn't disappear with her?" Henry felt as though he'd been struck. "Barbara, she was behind this?" Betty's eyes widened with realization. "You really don't know, do you?" "Know what, Mrs. Washington? What happened to Rebecca and my child?" Betty's weathered hands twisted in her lap. "I've protected that girl for 25 years. I won't stop now. I would never harm her. She's my daughter. It's not you I'm worried about." Betty's voice dropped. "Your sister called me this morning, first time in 25 years. Said she saw you talking to Chloe at the hotel." Betty's eyes held decades of fear. She reminded me of our arrangement. What arrangement? What did Barbara do? Before Betty could answer, her phone buzzed. She checked it, her face paling. It's Chloe. She says there's a woman at our apartment, asking questions about me. About her mother. Betty's hands shook. She described your sister, Mr. Callahan. Henry was already on his feet. I'll drive you. As his car sped through Chicago traffic, Henry's mind raced with questions. What had his sister done? What had she threatened Betty with? And most importantly, where was Rebecca? By the time Henry's sleek Audi pulled up to Betty's apartment building, Barbara was gone. They found Chloe pacing the small living room, her face tight with concern. Grandma, thank God! She rushed to embrace Betty, then froze at the sight of Henry Callahan standing in their doorway. What's he doing here? He drove me, child. It's all right. Betty's voice was calmer than her trembling hands suggested. That woman said she was from your old job, Chloe said. Asked all kinds of questions about me, about Mom, said she was doing a benefits review for former employees. She turned to Henry. She was your sister, wasn't she? I recognized her from those charity gala photos in the newspapers. Henry nodded grimly. Barbara Callahan, my sister and CFO of Callahan Industries. Why is your family suddenly so interested in us? Chloe demanded. Before Henry could answer, Betty intervened. Chloe, would you make us some tea? I need to speak with Mr. Callahan privately. Chloe hesitated, clearly reluctant to leave them alone. I'm not a child anymore, Grandma. Whatever this is about, I deserve to know. You do, Betty agreed softly. And you will. But first, I need to show Mr. Callahan something. With visible reluctance, Chloe retreated to the kitchen. Betty led Henry to her bedroom, a small space dominated by a neatly made single bed and a weathered dresser. From beneath the bed, she pulled out the shoebox Chloe had seen earlier, along with a second, smaller box reinforced with duct tape. I always kept these ready in case we needed to run, Betty explained, her voice barely above a whisper. For 25 years, I've slept with one eye open, waiting for your sister to change her mind about our arrangement. She removed a yellowed envelope from the smaller box. This came 3 days after Rebecca disappeared. No return address. Henry opened it with unsteady hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a handwritten note in unfamiliar script. The child is safe, if you want her to stay that way. Take her far from the Callahan family if you ever tell Henry. I'll make sure both you and the baby suffer the consequences. Remember what happened to Rebecca? Who sent this? Henry asked, his voice hollow. It came with $50,000 in cash and a birth certificate already filled out for Chloe Marie Parker. I never saw who delivered it, but the threat couldn't have been clearer. Betty's eyes held decades of fear. Your sister visited me the day before, told me Rebecca had died in an unfortunate accident, said the baby needed someone experienced to care for her. When I asked questions, she said I should think about my immigration status. Henry clenched his jaw. You weren't here legally. I'd overstayed my visa by 2 years. Had a nephew back home in Jamaica depending on my money for his medical treatments. Betty's eyes were unflinching. Your sister knew exactly how to ensure my cooperation. And the baby, Chloe, she just gave her to you. A woman brought her to my apartment. Tiny little thing, not even 2 weeks old. Had a silver half-moon necklace around her little neck. Betty's voice softened at the memory. When this note came days later, I knew something terrible had happened to Rebecca, but I also knew that baby was safer with me than anywhere near your family. Henry ran a hand over his face. This doesn't make sense. Barbara and Rebecca barely knew each other. Why would my sister... A knock at the bedroom door interrupted him. Everything okay in there? Chloe called. Just a minute, child, Betty responded, hastily returning the envelope to its box. Henry raised a hand to stop her. She has a right to know. Betty looked at him with weary resignation. And what exactly do we tell her? That her mother might have been murdered? That the woman who might have done it just paid her a visit? We tell her the truth, or at least, what we know of it, Henry insisted. Betty looked toward the door, then back at Henry. Not yet. Not until we understand what really happened. Before Henry could object, his phone rang. Frank Porter's name flashed on the screen. You need to take this outside, Betty said firmly, already steering him toward the door. In the dingy hallway of the apartment building, Henry accepted the call. I followed up on your request to locate former Callahan household staff from 2002, Frank said without preamble. Most have moved on, but I found Samuel Green, the head groundskeeper from 1998 to 2004. He was reluctant to talk until I mentioned Rebecca Hunter. What did he say? Henry's pulse quickened. Not over the phone. He insisted on meeting in person. Said he had something that belonged to you. Frank paused. He seemed frightened, sir. Said he'd been keeping it safe all these years. Henry glanced at Betty's apartment door. Where is he? A small house in Hammond, Indiana. I can text you the address. I'm on my way. When Henry re-entered the apartment, he found Chloe and Betty sitting rigidly at the kitchen table, cups of untouched tea before them. I need to go, he said. There's someone I have to meet. Someone who might have information about Rebecca. You mean my mother? Chloe's direct gaze was so like Rebecca's, it made his chest ache. That's what this is all about, isn't it? She didn't just die. Something happened to her. Henry hesitated, torn between truth and caution. Mr. Callahan believes your mother may have been forced to leave you, Betty said carefully, and that I was chosen to raise you for a reason, because you worked for his family, Chloe said, putting the pieces together. That photograph of you in the maid's uniform. It was their house, wasn't it? Betty nodded. I worked in their mansion for 5 years. And my mother, who was she to them? Henry met her questioning gaze. Rebecca Hunter was the woman I loved. We were expecting a child together when she disappeared 25 years ago. The color drained from Chloe's face. Are you saying you think I'm that child? The timing fits. The resemblance is unmistakable. Henry's voice softened. You have her eyes. Chloe's hand went instinctively to the half-moon pendant beneath her shirt. And this? Did it belong to her? We had matching necklaces, Henry confirmed. A full moon that separated into 2 crescents. She wore one half, I kept the other. The room fell silent as Chloe absorbed this information. Finally, she looked up. Her expression hardened with resolve. Who are you going to meet? A former groundskeeper from the estate. He says he has something that belonged to Rebecca. I'm coming with you, Chloe stated, already standing. Absolutely not, Betty protested. It's too dangerous. If this is about my mother, my real mother, I have a right to be there. Chloe's tone left no room for argument. I've spent my entire life with just a photograph and half a necklace. If there's more to the story, I need to hear it. Henry studied her determined expression, the same stubborn set of the jaw he'd seen countless times on Rebecca. We'll take my car, Mrs. Washington should come too. 90 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest bungalow on a quiet street in Hammond. Samuel Green was waiting on the porch, a tall, thin man in his 70s, his dark skin weathered by years of outdoor work. Recognition lit his eyes when they approached. Mr. Callahan, it's been a long time. His gaze shifted to Chloe, widening slightly. My God, you look just like her. You knew my mother, Chloe asked. Samuel nodded solemnly. Miss Rebecca was kind to everyone on staff. Treated us like people, not furniture. He looked at Henry. She loved you something fierce. Sir, that's why I kept this safe all these years. From inside his jacket, he withdrew a small leather-bound book and a silver chain with half a crescent moon pendant, the twin to Chloe's. Her diary, Samuel explained, and the other half of that necklace you're wearing, young lady. Miss Rebecca asked me to hide them the day before she disappeared. Said if anything happened to her, I should make sure Mr. Henry got them someday. Henry took the items with reverent care. Why didn't you come forward before? Samuel's expression darkened. Because I overheard things I wasn't supposed to. Miss Barbara talking to someone about making sure Rebecca wasn't a problem anymore. 2 days later, Rebecca was gone. His voice dropped. After that, I received a substantial retirement bonus, with the clear message that my continued health depended on my silence. You think Barbara was involved in Rebecca's disappearance? Henry asked, his world tilting once again. I think, sir, that you'll find your answers in that diary. Samuel glanced nervously at the street. I've said more than is safe already. You should go. As they drove back toward Chicago, the diary sat like a time bomb in Henry's lap. 23 years of questions might finally have answers, but he found himself afraid to look. From the back seat, Chloe leaned forward. Aren't you going to open it? Henry glanced at her in the rearview mirror. this young woman who might be his daughter, her eyes so like Rebecca's, filled with the same hunger for truth that had always driven the woman he loved. With a deep breath, he handed the diary to Chloe. "We'll read it together when we get back." The chapel of St. Catherine's Convent stood silent in the early morning light. Stained glass windows cast jewel-toned patterns across worn wooden pews as Sister Mercy moved quietly through her daily ritual. At 48, her face retained a serene beauty despite the faint lines around her eyes, evidence of a life dedicated to service and prayer. 23 years had passed since the Sisters of St. Catherine's had found her on the roadside, bruised, bleeding, and without a single memory of who she was. The doctors had called it traumatic amnesia, likely caused by the head injury that had nearly taken her life. The sisters had named her Mercy for the miracle of her survival. She lit candles at the altar, her movements practiced and graceful. After 2 decades in the convent, 60 miles north of Chicago, this peaceful routine had become her anchor. "You're up early again, Sister Mercy," came a gentle voice behind her. Mother Agnes stood in the doorway, her elderly face creased with concern. At 82, she was the only sister who remained from the day they had found Mercy all those years ago. "The dreams came back," Mercy admitted, placing another candle in its holder. Mother Agnes moved closer. "The same ones," Mercy nodded. "A baby crying, a man calling a name I can't quite hear, and this time, water, dark water." She had long ago accepted that these fragments might be echoes of her past. Though no memories had ever fully returned, the doctors had explained that some amnesia cases were permanent, particularly when the mind was protecting itself from trauma. "Perhaps it's time to consider Dr. Levine's suggestion," Mother Agnes said carefully. "Hypnotherapy has shown promise in cases like yours." Mercy shook her head. "What purpose would it serve? My life is here now, with you, with our community." Yet even as she spoke, her hand moved unconsciously to her throat, where a phantom weight sometimes seemed to rest. She had no possessions from her previous life, nothing but the plain cotton hospital gown she'd been wearing when they found her. "Come," Mother Agnes said, changing the subject. "Sister Josephine has made her famous cinnamon rolls for breakfast, and the children will be arriving soon for their music lesson." The convent's small music room was Mercy's domain, though she had no memory of formal training. Music had come naturally to her from the beginning, particularly the piano. Teaching local children had become her special ministry, one that brought unexpected joy to her quiet life. Later that morning, as small fingers stumbled over scales under her patient guidance, Mercy felt the familiar sense of rightness that always accompanied these lessons. She hummed along, encouraging a nervous 6-year-old through a simple melody. "Miss Mercy sings pretty," the little girl whispered to her mother afterward. "That she does, Emma," the woman agreed, gathering their belongings. "Her lullaby recording is the only thing that gets this one to sleep some nights." Mercy smiled, remembering the seed the sisters had produced as a fundraiser last year. Simple lullabies and children's songs performed by her and the convent choir. It had proven unexpectedly popular with local families. As the last student departed, Sister Josephine appeared at the door. "Mother Agnes would like to see you in the community room." "Sister, we have visitors from the diocese." The community room buzzed with unusual activity. A film crew was setting up equipment while Mother Agnes spoke with a woman in a crisp blazer. "Ah, Sister Mercy." Mother Agnes beckoned her over. "This is Mrs. Reynolds from the Diocesan Media Office. They're producing a segment on our music education program for their weekly broadcast. We've heard wonderful things about your work with children." S's. Reynolds smiled. "We'd like to include a brief interview with you, if that's acceptable." Mercy hesitated. She generally avoided cameras, an instinct she couldn't explain but had always respected. "It would help our fundraising efforts tremendously," Mother Agnes added gently. "Of course," Mercy acquiesced. For the convent, she would overcome her reluctance. The interview was brief and focused on the music program. At Mrs. Reynolds's request, Mercy demonstrated a simple lullaby she often taught her students, a melody that had come to her years ago, though she couldn't remember learning it. "Beautiful, Miss," Reynolds commented as Mercy's voice faded. "You have a remarkable gift, sister. Would you mind if we include footage of you playing piano as well? Perhaps that piece you performed at last year's Christmas concert?" By early afternoon, the crew had packed up, promising that the segment would air the following Sunday on the local affiliate. "You did wonderfully," Mother Agnes assured her, "though I could see you were uncomfortable. I just don't like being recorded," Mercy said. "It feels wrong somehow." Mother Agnes studied her with knowing eyes. "The mind may forget, my dear, but the body remembers. Perhaps there's a reason for your discomfort." That night, the dreams came again, more vivid than before. A man's face, blurred but somehow familiar. A baby's cry, running through darkness. The sensation of falling. Mercy woke gasping, her nightgown damp with sweat. Outside her small window, dawn was breaking, rather than attempting more sleep. She dressed and made her way to the chapel, seeking the peace that prayer usually brought. Hours later, Sister Josephine found her still kneeling there. "Sister Mercy, Sister Margaret needs help in the garden and—" She stopped, noticing Mercy's pallor. "Are you unwell?" Mercy rose slowly, stretching stiff limbs. "Just tired. The dreams again." Sister Josephine's kind face creased with concern. "They're getting worse, aren't they? Perhaps you should speak with Dr. Collins when he visits next week." "Perhaps," Mercy conceded, though she doubted any doctor could help with what ailed her. This persistent sense that something essential had been taken from her, that somewhere beyond the convent walls was a life she should remember. The week passed in its usual rhythm of prayer, work, and teaching. By Sunday, Mercy had almost forgotten about the interview until Sister Josephine burst into the kitchen, where several nuns were preparing the evening meal. "It's on! The segment about our music program," she announced excitedly. "Mother Agnes says we should all watch." The sisters gathered in the community room, where the ancient television had been tuned to the diocesan broadcast. Mercy hung back, feeling that familiar unease as her image appeared on screen. The segment was professionally done, showing the children's eager faces as they learned, interspersed with comments from parents about the program's impact. Then came Mercy's interview and her demonstration of the lullaby. As she watched herself sing, a strange sensation washed over her. As if she were simultaneously present and 1,000 miles away, the melody suddenly seemed loaded with meaning she couldn't grasp. "That was lovely, sister," Mother Agnes said as the segment ended, squeezing her hand. Mercy nodded absently, the strange feeling lingering even as the sisters dispersed to their various duties. Later that evening, as she prepared for night prayers, a knock came at her door. Sister Josephine stood there, looking uncharacteristically anxious. "Mother Agnes would like to see you in her office, immediately." Mother Agnes was not alone. A disheveled-looking young woman stood by the window, her eyes red-rimmed as if she'd been crying. "Sister Mercy, this is Tanya Kirsch. She's driven quite a distance to see you." Mother Agnes's voice was gentle but edged with something Mercy couldn't identify. The young woman stepped forward. "You don't know me, but I saw you on TV today, that song you sang." Her voice broke. "My mother used to sing me the exact same lullaby. She said it was special, that her grandmother taught it to her, and it was only passed down in our family." Mercy felt a chill despite the warm evening. "Many lullabies are similar." "Not this one," Tanya insisted. "And then your pendant, the one you were touching while you sang." "I don't wear jewelry," Mercy said, confused. "Our order doesn't—" "Not now. In your interview, they showed a photograph of you from last year's Christmas concert. You were wearing a half-moon pendant." "Silver," Mother Agnes interjected gently. "The diocese used archive footage, sister, from before you took your final vows." Tanya pulled out her phone, fingers trembling as she navigated to a saved image. "This was my mother, Rebecca Hunter. She disappeared 25 years ago." She held out the phone, and Mercy found herself staring at a photo of a young woman with auburn hair, smiling at the camera, wearing a distinctive silver pendant, a half moon, identical to the one in Tanya's other hand. "She never went anywhere without this necklace," Tanya continued. "It was a gift from Henry, my father. They had matching halves." She looked at Mercy with desperate hope. "I've been searching for her my whole life. When I saw you sing her lullaby, wearing what looked like her necklace, I had to come." Mercy felt the room tilt slightly. "I'm sorry. I can't be who you're looking for. I've been here for 23 years. My mother disappeared 25 years ago," Tanya persisted. "She was pregnant with me when she vanished. The police thought she drowned herself, but my father never believed it." Mother Agnes placed a steadying hand on Mercy's arm. Sister Mercy came to us 23 years ago, Miss Kirsch. She was found unconscious by the roadside, with severe injuries. She had no identification, no memory. Tanya's eyes widened. No memory? Then you wouldn't know. You wouldn't remember. Mercy felt a sudden sharp pain behind her eyes. Images flashed. Water, darkness, panic. A baby's cry. She swayed, and Mother Agnes guided her to a chair. I think, the elderly nun said quietly, that we should all sit down. There may be more to this story than any of us realized. The morning sun slanted through the blinds as Henry, Chloe, and Betty huddled around Rebecca's diary in Betty's small apartment. They had stayed up most of the night reading through the worn pages, piecing together a horrifying truth that none of them had been prepared for. I still can't believe it, Chloe whispered, her fingers tracing her mother's handwriting. She knew something was wrong. She was afraid. The final entries painted a disturbing picture. Rebecca had discovered financial documents in Barbara's home office during a family dinner, papers suggesting that Henry's sister was embezzling from the company. When confronted privately, Barbara had threatened her. I don't know what to do, Rebecca had written 2 days before her disappearance. If I tell Henry, it could tear his family apart. If I don't, Barbara could continue stealing millions. She made it clear that my interference would have consequences. Said no one would believe a gold digger over a Callahan. I've asked Samuel to keep this diary safe just in case something happens. I should have protected her, Henry said, his voice hollow with regret. I should have seen what Barbara was capable of. Betty placed a weathered hand on his arm. You couldn't have known. Barbara was careful. But why take my baby? Chloe asked. The question that had haunted them all night. Why not just get rid of both of us? The diary doesn't say, Henry admitted. But knowing Barbara, she probably thought having you raised by someone dependent on her silence was insurance. A way to control the situation. Betty nodded grimly. And it worked. For 25 years, I lived in fear that one wrong move would endanger Chloe. Chloe stood abruptly, pacing the small living room. We need to go to the police. We have evidence now. A 25-year-old diary and the testimony of a groundskeeper who was paid off. Henry shook his head. Barbara would hire the best lawyers in the country. She'd claim the diary was forged, that Samuel was disgruntled. So we just do nothing, Chloe demanded, her eyes flashing with Rebecca's fire. No, Henry said firmly. We find Rebecca. The diary mentions she suspected she was being followed in the weeks before she disappeared. If Barbara didn't, he couldn't bring himself to finish the thought. If she's alive, where has she been all this time? Betty asked softly. I don't know, Henry admitted, but I won't stop until I find out. The ringing of Chloe's phone broke the tension. She glanced at the screen. It's work. I'm late for my shift. She hesitated, clearly torn between duty and the unfolding family drama. Go, Betty encouraged. We need to keep things normal while we figure this out. The last thing we want is to alert Barbara that we know anything. Reluctantly, Chloe gathered her uniform and prepared for work. Before leaving, she turned to Henry. The diary mentioned a cabin by Lake Geneva where you and Mom used to go. Have you checked there? Henry's expression tightened. I sold it years ago after your mother disappeared. I couldn't bear to be there. We'll keep looking, Betty promised as Chloe headed out the door. Be careful, child. The Grand Magnolia Hotel was unusually busy when Chloe arrived. A corporate event in the main ballroom had the entire staff scurrying to accommodate both regular guests and a flood of business executives. You're late, Vivian snapped, thrusting a tray of champagne flutes into Chloe's hands. Take these to the Oakwood room immediately. The Jefferson account depends on this breakfast going smoothly. Chloe nodded, forcing her mind to focus on the immediate task rather than the revelations of the past 24 hours. As she navigated the crowded corridors, she heard a familiar voice that made her blood run cold. The demolition contracts need to be signed by Monday if we want to stay on schedule. Barbara Callahan stood just inside an open conference room. Speaking to two men in expensive suits, she looked exactly as she had at Betty's apartment. Elegant, authoritative, and completely without remorse. Chloe ducked her head and hurried past, praying Barbara wouldn't recognize her from their brief encounter. Once in the Oakwood room, she distributed champagne with mechanical efficiency, her mind racing. What was Barbara doing here? Was it coincidence? Or had she somehow learned that Chloe worked at the hotel? The morning passed in a blur of service and anxiety. By noon, Chloe had convinced herself that Barbara's presence was merely an unhappy coincidence, until she emerged from the kitchen to find the woman herself seated at a corner table in her section. "Good afternoon," Chloe said, struggling to keep her voice level. "May I take your order?" Barbara looked up, her eyes sharpening with recognition. "Chloe, isn't it? We met briefly at your grandmother's apartment." "I remember," Chloe replied, pen poised over her order pad. "I'm meeting someone, but I'll take a sparkling water while I wait." Barbara studied her with calculating precision. "You know, you look remarkably like someone I used to know." "I get that a lot," Chloe said neutrally, turning to leave. "My brother seems quite taken with you," Barbara continued, stopping Chloe in her tracks. "Henry's always had a soft spot for vulnerable young women." Chloe turned slowly. "Is there anything else you'd like to order?" "Ma'am," Barbara smiled thinly, "just some advice. Be careful around my brother. He's never quite recovered from a tragedy in his past. Tends to see ghosts where there are none." The implied threat hung in the air between them. Before Chloe could respond, a commotion erupted from the kitchen area. Shouting, then the shrill blare of the fire alarm. "Fire! Everyone out!" A panicked voice called from the dining room entrance. The restaurant erupted into controlled chaos as staff guided guests toward emergency exits. Through the kitchen doors, Chloe could see flames licking at the ceiling near the pantry area. Black smoke billowing toward the dining room. "This way, ma'am," Chloe said automatically, gesturing Barbara toward the nearest exit. Barbara gathered her belongings unhurriedly. Quite the dramatic interruption to our chat. As guests streamed toward the exits, a woman's scream cut through the commotion. "My daughter. She went to the bathroom. I can't find her." Chloe spotted the hysterical mother being escorted out by security, fighting against their restraining arms. Without conscious thought, Chloe veered away from the exit, toward the restrooms at the far end of the dining area. Smoke was already filling the corridor. "Where are you going?" Barbara called after her. Chloe ignored her, pulling her uniform jacket over her nose and mouth as she pushed through the thickening smoke. The women's restroom was empty, but she heard crying from the family restroom next door. Inside, she found a little girl of about 6 huddled beneath the sink, terrified. "Hey there," Chloe said, kneeling down. "Your mom's looking for you. Let's get you out of here." The child shook her head, refusing to move. "Too scary." "I know it's scary," Chloe agreed, glancing anxiously at the smoke now seeping under the door. "But I promise I'll keep you safe." "What's your name?" "Emily," the girl whispered. "Well, Emily, I'm Chloe, and I need a brave helper to get through this smoke. Can you be my helper?" The girl nodded hesitantly. "Okay, here's what we're going to do." Chloe removed her uniform jacket, wrapping it around the child's head and shoulders. "Hold this over your face and hold my hand. Don't let go, no matter what." They emerged into a corridor now thick with acrid smoke. Chloe kept low, guiding Emily toward what she hoped was the main exit. The heat was intensifying, and she could hear the crackle of flames from multiple directions. "This way," she coughed, spotting a sliver of light that had to be the exit. As they neared the doors, a tremendous crash sounded behind them. Chloe glanced back to see part of the ceiling collapse, sending sparks and burning debris across their escape route. Without hesitation, she scooped Emily into her arms and made a desperate dash for the exit. They burst into the sunlight to the cheers of onlookers and the relieved screams of Emily's mother. As Chloe handed the child over, a searing pain bloomed across her back and shoulders. The hem of her uniform had caught fire during their escape. Someone, a hotel security guard, tackled her to the ground. Rolling her on the pavement to extinguish the flames, Chloe felt a strange sense of detachment as pain engulfed her consciousness. Through blurring vision, she saw Barbara Callahan watching from the crowd, her expression unreadable. As paramedics rushed forward, Chloe's hand went instinctively to her neck, ensuring the silver half-moon pendant was still there. It was the last conscious action she took before darkness claimed her. In her hospital room hours later, the television flickered with breaking news. A reporter stood outside the Grand Magnolia Hotel, where smoke still rose from the damaged building. Authorities are investigating the cause of the fire that injured 12 people this afternoon, including one hotel employee who is being hailed as a hero for rescuing a child trapped inside. Chloe Parker, 25, is currently in critical condition at Chicago Memorial Hospital. The camera zoomed in on a photograph of Chloe, one taken by a bystander as paramedics loaded her into the ambulance. Around her neck, clearly visible against her soot-stained skin, was the silver half-moon pendant, 60 miles north, in the quiet community room of St. Catherine's Convent. Sister Mercy sat frozen before the television, a strange buzzing in her ears as she stared at the pendant that matched the one in Tanya Kirsch's hand. Sister Mercy stared at the television screen long after the news segment had ended. The buzzing in her ears had given way to a pounding headache, sharp and insistent behind her right temple. "Sister, are you unwell?" Mother Agnes placed a concerned hand on her shoulder. "That pendant," Mercy whispered, unable to tear her gaze from the now blank screen. "It's the same as the one in Miss Kirsch's photograph." Mother Agnes exchanged a worried glance with Tanya, who had remained at the convent after their startling conversation the previous evening. "And the young woman, Chloe Parker," Mercy continued. "There's something familiar about her." "Familiar how?" Tanya asked carefully. Mercy shook her head, wincing as the movement intensified her headache. "I don't know. It's like looking at a word on the tip of your tongue. Something you should recognize but can't quite grasp." Mother Agnes settled into the chair beside her. "You've always had these feelings, fragments of memory. The doctors said they might never form a complete picture. But what if they could?" Tanya leaned forward eagerly. "What if seeing Chloe triggered something? She could be your daughter, my cousin, if what I believe is true." Mercy closed her eyes, trying to sort through the jumble of sensations washing over her. The lullaby she'd sung in the interview, the half-moon pendant, this young woman fighting for her life after a heroic rescue. "I think," she said slowly, "I need to see her." "Sister, your health," Mother Agnes began. "I've had these headaches for 23 years, Mercy said with sudden firmness. "Always when something stirs these fragments. I'm tired of living with half a life, Agnes. If there's any chance this woman is connected to my past, I need to know." Tanya nodded. "I can drive you to Chicago. We can be there in a few hours." "I'll need to speak with the bishop," Mother Agnes said, recognizing the determination in Mercy's eyes. "You haven't left the convent grounds in years, sister. This is highly unusual." "So is discovering you might have had a child you don't remember," Mercy replied, a hint of steel in her gentle voice. 2 hours later, with the bishop's reluctant blessing and Mother Agnes's worried admonitions, Sister Mercy sat in the passenger seat of Tanya's modest sedan, watching the familiar landscape of northern Illinois give way to increasingly urban scenery. They drove mostly in silence, Mercy lost in thought, Tanya respecting her companion's introspection. Occasionally, Tanya would glance at the nun's profile, searching for traces of the woman in the photographs her father had shown her, the biological mother she'd spent a lifetime looking for. "You don't have to call me sister, you know," Mercy said suddenly. "Not when it's just us." Tanya smiled. "What should I call you, Rebecca?" Mercy considered this. "No, not yet that name. It doesn't feel like mine. Not completely." She turned to look at Tanya. "You said your father, Henry, never believed your mother drowned herself. Never. He spent years searching for her, hired investigators, offered rewards. Eventually, he had to accept that she was gone. But he kept her things, talked about her often, and he raised you alone." A shadow crossed Tanya's face. "No, I was raised by my grandmother. Well, not my biological grandmother, Betty Washington. She worked for my father's family years ago." Mercy frowned, trying to process this discrepancy with the diary entries they'd discovered. "But in the news report, they called the injured woman Chloe Parker." "That's me," Tanya admitted. "Chloe is my real name. I only started using Tanya recently. For work, it's complicated." Mercy felt a jolt of confusion. "You're Chloe, the woman in the hospital." No, Tanya, Chloe clarified quickly. "That's someone else entirely. Someone who looks remarkably like my mother and wears the same pendant. That's why we need to see her." Mercy pressed her fingers against her throbbing temple. The headache was intensifying. Fragments of memory, or perhaps imagination, flickered at the edges of her consciousness. A baby crying, water closing over her head, a persistent sense of danger. "Tell me about your father," she requested, trying to ground herself in concrete details. Henry Callahan. He built Callahan Industries into one of the largest development companies in the Midwest. Very successful. Very driven. Tanya's voice softened. But there's always been this sadness about him. He never remarried, never even dated seriously after my mother disappeared. The name Callahan stirred something in Mercy's mind, a vague sense of both warmth and unease. She closed her eyes, allowing the sensations to wash over her without trying to force them into coherent memories. His sister Barbara practically runs the company now, Tanya continued. She's brilliant with numbers, completely ruthless in business. They're not close, never have been, according to Grandma Betty. Barbara, Mercy repeated, and a sharp spike of fear shot through her. The intensity of it was startling, causing her to gasp. Are you okay? Tanya asked, alarmed. That name, Barbara, it triggers something frightening. Mercy rubbed absently at her right temple, where a thin scar disappeared into her hairline, the physical remnant of whatever trauma had stolen her memories as they approached the outskirts of Chicago. Traffic thickened, billboards flanked the highway, advertising luxury condominiums, investment opportunities, and department stores. One massive sign caught Mercy's attention: Callahan Industries, building Chicago's future. Beside the slogan was a photograph of a distinguished silver-haired man with penetrating eyes. Something shifted in Mercy's mind, like a key turning in a long rusted lock. Those eyes? She knew those eyes. That's him, isn't it, Henry? Tanya glanced at the billboard as they passed. Yes, that's my father. Mercy stared after the sign until it disappeared from view, her heart racing inexplicably. The headache intensified, a pressure building behind her eyes. We're almost there, Tanya said, navigating Chicago's complex downtown streets. Chicago Memorial Hospital. Dad and Grandma Betty are probably already there. The hospital's massive emergency entrance was a flurry of activity, ambulances arriving, medical personnel moving with purpose, families waiting anxiously. Tanya led Mercy through the crowded lobby to the information desk, where a harried receptionist directed them to the burn unit on the 5th floor. In the elevator, Mercy suddenly gripped the handrail, overcome by a wave of dizziness. Sister, Tanya steadied her with a concerned hand. I'm fine, Mercy insisted, though the headache had become almost blinding. Just anxious, I suppose. The burn unit's waiting area was quieter, with hushed conversations and the soft beeping of distant monitors. An elderly black woman sat beside a silver-haired man, the same man from the billboard, though his face now bore the strain of worry. Dad, Tanya called softly. Henry Callahan looked up, relief washing over his features at the sight of his daughter. Then his gaze shifted to Mercy, and the color drained from his face. Rebecca, he whispered, rising unsteadily to his feet. Mercy felt the world tilt. The man's voice, she knew that voice. It resonated through her being, stirring something deep and essential. Betty Washington had also risen, her weathered face a mask of shock. It can't be. Henry, Mercy said, the name emerging unbidden. Not Sister Henry from the convent, but this man, this stranger who somehow wasn't a stranger at all. He moved toward her slowly, as if approaching a dream he feared would vanish. Is it really you? Before she could answer, a doctor emerged from the ICU doors. Mr. Callahan. Ms. Parker is stabilized. You can see her briefly, but only 2 visitors at a time. Henry seemed torn, looking between Mercy and the IQ doors. Go, Mercy said, still struggling to process the riot of emotions his presence had triggered. Your daughter needs you. My daughter is right here, Henry said, his gaze moving between Tanya and Mercy. And possibly in there as well. He turned to Betty. Would you go in first? Take Tanya. I need to speak with Mercy, she supplied. That's what the sisters named me. As Betty and Tanya disappeared behind the ICU doors, Henry guided Mercy to a quiet corner of the waiting room. 23 years, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I thought you were dead. We all did. Mercy looked into his eyes, those eyes that had haunted her fragmentary dreams. I don't remember you, she admitted. Not completely, but when I saw your face, heard your voice, something recognized you. Henry's hand hovered near hers, not quite touching. What happened to you, Rebecca? I don't know. The sisters found me on a roadside, badly injured, head trauma, no identification, no memory. She touched the scar at her temple. The doctors called it traumatic amnesia. And you've been in a convent all this time, just an hour's drive away. His voice broke on the last words. Mercy nodded. It became my home, my sanctuary. She hesitated. They said on the news that Chloe, the young woman who was injured, has a pendant like this one. She touched the spot at her throat where such a necklace might have rested. Half a moon, Henry confirmed. I gave you the necklace for your 21st birthday. 2 crescents that formed a whole when placed together. His eyes glistened. Our daughter wears 1/2. I kept the other all these years. Our daughter. The word sent another spike of pain through Mercy's head, accompanied by a flash of memory, holding a newborn, feeling a love so intense it took her breath away. We had a baby, she whispered, the realization dawning. I was pregnant when I disappeared. Henry nodded, his expression a complex mixture of joy and anguish. A daughter, Chloe Marie, as if summoned by her name. The IQ doors opened again, and Betty emerged, her face wet with tears. She's awake, she announced, and asking for her father. Henry stood, then turned back to Mercy. Will you come? She should meet you. Mercy hesitated, overwhelmed by the rapid unraveling of her carefully ordered existence. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't remember enough. Some things go deeper than memory, Betty said gently. I've seen how you look at him. Even now, some part of you knows. Before Mercy could respond, a commotion erupted at the waiting room entrance. A tall, elegantly dressed woman strode toward them, her face a cold mask of fury. What is the meaning of this? She demanded, her gaze locking on Mercy. Who is this woman? Henry stepped protectively in front of Mercy. Barbara, what are you doing here? I came to check on the injured waitress, of course. A Callahan Industries representative should show concern. Barbara's calculating eyes never left Mercy's face. But I never expected to find a ghost. The name, Barbara, sent another jolt of fear through Mercy's system. With it came a flash of memory so vivid it stole her breath. A woman's face, contorted with rage, shoving her toward dark water. A desperate struggle as the weight of her pregnant belly pulled her down. You, Mercy gasped, the fragmented memories suddenly coalescing. It was you. The hospital waiting room froze in a tableau of tension. Barbara Callahan stared at Mercy, her composed facade cracking for just an instant before she regained control. I don't know what you're talking about, Barbara said coolly, or who you're pretending to be. Barbara, Henry warned, his voice low. Don't. Betty stepped forward, her small frame vibrating with decades of suppressed anger. The game is over, Ms. Callahan. We know what you did. Barbara's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the group. And what exactly do you think you know? Betty, after all these years of loyal service, now you're making accusations. We found Rebecca's diary, Henry said. Samuel kept it safe, along with the other half of her necklace. A flicker of genuine fear crossed Barbara's face before she masked it with derision. A diary, from a mentally unstable woman who abandoned her family. I'm sure that will hold up well in court. The mention of court triggered another memory for Mercy. Frantically writing in that diary, hiding it, knowing she needed to document her suspicions. You were stealing from the company, Mercy said, the words emerging from some newly accessed part of her consciousness. Millions. I found the transfers when I was looking for Henry's birthday gift receipt in your home office. You were siphoning funds to offshore accounts. Barbara's face paled slightly. This is ridiculous, Henry. Surely you don't believe this. Charade. This woman is clearly an imposter. The company audit, Henry said slowly. The year after Rebecca disappeared, you insisted on changing firms. Said our usual accountants were getting complacent. Standard business practice, Barbara snapped. Or a way to cover your tracks, Henry countered. What did you do to her, Barbara? Barbara's professional smile returned, though it didn't reach her eyes. I can see you're all very upset. Perhaps we should continue this conversation with our attorneys present. She took a step toward the elevator, but Henry blocked her path. Did you try to kill the mother of my child? Before Barbara could respond, the ICU doors opened, and Tanya emerged, her face streaked with tears. She's asking for you, she told Henry. then noticed the new arrival. "Aunt Barbara, what are you doing here?" "Apparently being accused of attempted murder by a woman in a nun's costume," Barbara replied dryly. "Your father seems to believe she's your long-lost mother." Tanya looked between Barbara and Mercy, confusion evident on her face. "But the diary, it said, a convenient fabrication, no doubt," Barbara cut in. She turned to Henry. "This is absurd. I'm leaving. My lawyer will contact you." A hospital security guard appeared, summoned by a concerned nurse who had noticed the escalating tension. "Is everything all right here?" "No," Henry said firmly. "This woman is not to leave the premises. She's wanted for questioning in connection with a 25-year-old attempted murder." Barbara's eyes widened in genuine alarm. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life," Henry replied. He turned to the security guard. "Please call the police. We'll wait." As the guard stepped away to make the call, Barbara's composed exterior finally cracked. "This is insane. You can't possibly prove anything after all this time." "Maybe not," Betty interjected. "But Chloe's in there fighting for her life after a fire that started right after you showed up at her workplace." "Quite a coincidence, wouldn't you say?" Barbara's face contorted with fury. "You think I had something to do with that? I was there on legitimate business, just like you were at Betty's apartment asking questions about Chloe," Henry challenged. Barbara fell silent, her calculating mind clearly reassessing her position. Inside the IQ, unaware of the drama unfolding in the waiting room, Chloe Parker drifted in and out of consciousness. The burns across her back and shoulders were painful but not life-threatening. The smoke inhalation had been the greater concern. Through the fog of pain medication, she was vaguely aware of visitors. Betty's worried face, a young woman she didn't recognize, and now her father again. "Dad," she murmured, her voice raspy from the breathing tube they'd removed earlier. Henry took her hand gently, mindful of the IV line. "I'm here, sweetheart. The little girl, is she okay?" "She's fine, thanks to you." He smoothed her hair back from her forehead, a gesture so tender it brought tears to her eyes. "You were incredibly brave." Chloe tried to focus through the medication haze. Barbara was there, at the hotel, before the fire. Henry's expression darkened. "I know. She's outside right now. She threatened me," Chloe managed. "Not directly. But she knew who I was, said you were seeing ghosts. She knows we've discovered the truth," Henry confirmed. "But there's something else, Chloe. Something incredible." He hesitated, unsure how to explain. Chloe's eyelids felt impossibly heavy. "What is it?" "Your mother," Henry said softly. "Rebecca, she's alive." Chloe fought against the encroaching darkness. "What? How?" "She's been living in a convent north of here. She lost her memory in an accident around the time you were born. But she's here now, Chloe." The medication was pulling her under again, but Chloe clung to consciousness. "I want to see her," she whispered. Henry squeezed her hand. "You will. Rest now." As Chloe slipped back into medicated sleep, Henry returned to the waiting room. Barbara sat rigidly in a chair, the security guard standing nearby. Mercy and Betty were speaking quietly in the corner, while Tanya paced nervously. "The police are on their way," the guard informed Henry. "This is still a ridiculous overreaction," Barbara said tightly. "You have no proof of anything." "Maybe not yet," Henry acknowledged. "But they'll investigate now. They'll look at old evidence with new eyes. They'll question Samuel." "Samuel?" Barbara scoffed. "A disgruntled ex-employee with a grudge. A man who kept Rebecca's diary safe for 25 years, Henry corrected. A man who overheard you threatening her days before she disappeared." Barbara's facade of confidence slipped further. "You've built an entire fantasy around a convenient coincidence. This woman," she gestured toward Mercy, "isn't Rebecca. She's an opportunist who saw a news story and decided to cash in." Mercy approached slowly, still overwhelmed by the fragments of memory flooding back. "I don't want money," she said quietly. "I've lived without possessions for 23 years. "Then what do you want?" Barbara demanded. "To understand," Mercy replied simply. "To remember." "The pier," Betty interjected suddenly. "The diary mentioned Rebecca was meeting you at Navy Pier the night she disappeared." Barbara's face tightened. "So, you lured her there," Henry realized. "Away from the house. Away from me." "This is pure speculation," Barbara insisted. Mercy closed her eyes, allowing the fragmented images to surface. "It was raining," she said softly. "I remember the sound on the water. You were angry, shouting about the money, about how I was ruining everything." The memory crystallized with brutal clarity. Barbara's rage-contorted face, the push, the shocking cold of Lake Michigan in early spring, the desperate struggle to stay afloat as her pregnant body dragged her down. I managed to grab onto something. A mooring line, I think. Pulled myself onto a maintenance platform, Mercy continued, the words emerging as the memory solidified. I was so cold, so afraid for the baby. I started walking, trying to find help. That's the last thing I remember before waking up in the hospital. Pure fabrication, Barbara snapped, but her voice lacked conviction. If it's fabrication, how does she know about the pier? Henry challenged. How does she know about the embezzlement that the subsequent audit covered up? How does she have half of the necklace I gave Rebecca? I don't have it anymore, Mercy admitted. It would have been with my belongings when the sisters found me. I only saw it in that old photograph from the Christmas concert. Convenient, Barbara muttered. 2 police officers arrived, directed to the waiting room by hospital staff. After a brief explanation from Henry, they agreed to take statements from everyone involved. We'll need to see this diary, the senior officer said, and speak with the groundskeeper you mentioned. Of course, Henry agreed. But first, my daughter in the ICU, she's recovering from burns and smoke inhalation. She spoke to my sister just before the fire broke out. The officer nodded. We'll need her statement as well, when she's able. As the police began taking preliminary information, a nurse approached Mercy. Sister, there's a call for you at the nurse's station, Mother Agnes, from your convent. Mercy excused herself, grateful for the momentary escape from the tension. At the desk, she took the hospital phone. Mother Agnes. Sister Mercy, are you all right? You've been gone for hours. I don't know what I am, Mercy admitted. There's been a development. The young woman from the news. She's in the ICU here. And the man who was, my husband, he's here too. And your memories? Mother Agnes asked gently, coming back in pieces, like a broken mirror slowly being reassembled. Mercy's voice caught. I think I might be her Agnes. Rebecca Hunter. I think I might have a daughter. Then God has answered many prayers today, the elderly nun said softly. Yours, and those of the family who never stopped missing you. As Mercy returned to the waiting room, she found Henry speaking with the officers, while Barbara sat in stony silence. Betty approached her, taking her hands in a gentle grip. She's asking for you, the older woman said. Chloe, she woke up again and asked to see her mother. Mercy felt her heart constrict. I don't know if I'm ready. I barely remember anything concrete. Some things don't need memory, Betty said, echoing her earlier words. Some things the heart knows. Drawing a deep breath, Mercy followed Betty through the ICU doors to the bed where Chloe lay, her eyes closed, her breathing steady. In sleep, the resemblance to the young woman Mercy saw in the mirror was unmistakable. The same arch of eyebrows, the same chin, around Chloe's neck, partially obscured by bandages, was the silver half-moon pendant. Without conscious thought, Mercy began to hum softly, the same lullaby she'd sung in the interview, the one that had started this impossible chain of events. As the gentle melody filled the room, Chloe's eyelids fluttered open. Mom, she whispered. Mom, Chloe whispered again, her voice raspy from the breathing tube that had been removed hours earlier. Mercy stood frozen, a storm of emotions washing over her. The single word, Mom, echoed in her mind, unlocking something fundamental. Suddenly, she wasn't Sister Mercy anymore, nor was she entirely Rebecca Hunter. She was simply a mother looking at her child for the first time in 25 years. I'm here, she managed, moving closer to the bed. Her hand trembled as she reached for Chloe's outstretched fingers. Dad said, he said you were alive. Chloe's eyes, heavy with medication, searched Mercy's face. I always dreamed about this moment. Betty quietly stepped back, giving them privacy while remaining close enough to offer support if needed. I don't remember everything, Mercy admitted, perching carefully on the edge of the bed. Just pieces coming back, but when I heard you call me Mom, something clicked into place. Chloe's eyes drifted to the habit Mercy wore. You're a nun. A small smile touched Mercy's lips. For the past 23 years, the sisters found me after the accident. I had no memory, no identification. Oh, they gave me shelter, purpose. And now? Chloe asked, the question heavy with unspoken implications. Mercy gently brushed a strand of hair from Chloe's forehead. Now I'm finding my way back. To you. To your father. To myself. The door opened softly, and Henry entered, hesitation in every line of his body. Seeing Mercy seated beside their daughter, he stopped, unwilling to intrude on the moment. It's okay, Chloe said, gesturing weakly for him to approach. We're all here, together. Henry moved to the opposite side of the bed, his eyes never leaving Mercy's face. The police want to speak with both of us when you're ready. They're taking Barbara to the station for further questioning. She's denying everything, I assume? Mercy asked. Henry nodded grimly. But they're interested in what you remember. And in the diary, the detective mentioned reopening the investigation into your disappearance. Mercy closed her eyes briefly, allowing more fragments to surface. We argued at the pier. I had confronted her about the embezzlement earlier that day. The memory crystallized further. She was so angry, said I was ruining everything, that Henry would never believe me over his own sister. She pushed you? Henry asked, his voice tight with controlled fury. Yes. I remember the falling sensation, the cold water. I was so afraid for the baby. Mercy's hand moved unconsciously to her abdomen. I managed to grab onto something. Part of the dock structure, I think. Pulled myself up onto a maintenance platform, then somehow made it back to shore. She frowned, concentrating on the still hazy memories. I was disoriented, hypothermic. I started walking, trying to find help. Then, nothing until I woke up in the hospital near St. Catherine's. The convent is about 60 miles north of the city, Henry said, pieces fitting together in his mind. You must have hitched a ride, or taken a bus, then collapsed near the convent. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive, Mercy continued. Severe head trauma, exposure, multiple fractures. They weren't sure I'd wake up at all. Chloe's grip on her hand tightened. But you did, with no memory of who I was or how I got there, Mercy confirmed. The sisters took me in, cared for me. When I recovered physically, I stayed. It felt safe. And the baby? Chloe asked, her voice small. What happened to me? Mercy looked to Betty, whose weathered face reflected decades of complicated emotions. I was told you arrived at my apartment when you were less than 2 weeks old, Betty said gently. Barbara arranged it, claiming Rebecca had died in an accident and that you needed care. She separated us, Henry said, the enormity of his sister's betrayal still sinking in. She tried to kill Rebecca, then took our newborn daughter and gave her away. She threatened me, Betty admitted, used my immigration status against me. And later, I received an anonymous note warning that if I ever told anyone, especially you, both Chloe and I would suffer. So you raised me in secret, Chloe said, understanding dawning in her eyes. Always looking over your shoulder. Betty nodded, tears slipping down her lined cheeks. I was so afraid, child, but I loved you from the moment they placed you in my arms. That part was never a lie. I know, Chloe assured her, reaching for Betty's hand with her free one, so that she now held both her mothers, the one who had given her life and the one who had raised her. A nurse entered, checking Chloe's vitals with practiced efficiency. You're doing well, Ms. Parker, but you need rest. Perhaps your visitors could return later. No, Chloe protested weakly. I need them here. The nurse's face softened. Just for a little while longer, then. But if your oxygen levels drop, everyone out. Doctor's orders. After she left, a thoughtful silence fell over the room. Mercy found herself studying Chloe's features, the shape of her eyes, the curve of her mouth, seeing both herself and Henry reflected there. What happens now? Chloe finally asked, the question directed at no one in particular. The police will investigate, Henry said. With your testimony, the diary, and Samuel's statement, they'll build a case against Barbara. After all this time, Betty asked skeptically. There's no statute of limitations on attempted murder, Henry replied grimly. And if they can connect her to the hotel fire somehow... The fire, Chloe interjected, struggling to sit up despite her injuries. I just remembered when I was serving her, right before the alarm went off, Barbara got a phone call. She said something about confirmation and proceeding as planned. I thought it was business talk, but now, Henry's expression hardened. I'll tell the detectives. If she arranged that fire to silence you, she'll face additional charges. What about us? Chloe asked, looking between Henry and Mercy. Our family. Henry's eyes met Mercy's across the bed. 25 years of separation hung between them, along with the ghosts of who they had once been to each other. One day at a time, Mercy said gently. I have a lot to process, a lot to remember, and you need to heal. Will you go back to the convent? The question came from Henry, his voice carefully neutral, though his eyes betrayed deeper emotions. Mercy hesitated. I don't know. That life has been my anchor for so long, but now, you could stay with us, Betty offered unexpectedly. The apartment is small, but we'd make room. Or at my place, Henry added. There's plenty of space. Chloe smiled despite her pain. Look at that. I went from having one grandmother to having two mothers and a father in the span of a day. Mercy returned the smile, though her thoughts remained turbulent. She was caught between worlds now, between Sister Mercy with her quiet, ordered existence, and Rebecca Hunter with her newly discovered family and traumatic past. As if sensing her conflict, Henry spoke again. Whatever you decide, we'll respect it. But know that we've waited 25 years to find you. We can wait a little longer for you to find yourself. The door opened once more, and a detective entered, nodding respectfully to the family. Ms. Hunter, or do you prefer Sister Mercy? I'm Detective Ramirez. When you're ready, I'd like to take your statement about the events of 25 years ago. Mercy squared her shoulders, a new determination settling over her. Rebecca, she said firmly. My name is Rebecca Hunter. The detective nodded, making a note. Ms. Hunter, then. I understand this is overwhelming, but anything you can tell us could be crucial. Rebecca looked at her daughter, then at Henry, drawing strength from their presence. I'm ready to tell you everything I remember. As she followed the detective from the room, promising to return soon, Rebecca paused in the doorway for one last look at her family, the daughter she'd nearly died trying to protect, the man she'd loved enough to challenge his powerful sister, the woman who had raised her child with love and courage. For 23 years, she had prayed for answers about her past. Now, as memories continued to surface, painful and joyful in equal measure, she faced an uncertain future. The familiar habit she wore no longer felt quite right, but neither did she feel fully at home in this new reality. One thing, however, was certain. When she had hummed that lullaby and Chloe had opened her eyes, a fundamental truth had resonated through her entire being. She was this girl's mother. That connection transcended memory, transcended time, transcended even her own understanding of herself. And for now, that was enough to move forward. 1 year later, the Chicago lakefront sparkled under a brilliant autumn sun as a crowd gathered outside an imposing brick building. Once an abandoned warehouse, the structure had been transformed into something both elegant and welcoming. A bronze plaque near the entrance read, House of Rebecca, a home for young women in transition. Chloe Parker stood at the podium, her posture confident despite the faint scars visible on her shoulders where her dress didn't quite cover them. Behind her sat her family, Rebecca in a simple blue dress rather than a habit, Henry looking prouder than anyone had seen him in decades, and Betty, her weathered face beaming with joy. 1 year ago, I was fighting for my life in a hospital bed, Chloe began, her voice carrying across the attentive crowd. I'd just discovered my true family history. A mother I thought was dead, a father I never knew I had, and an aunt who had orchestrated it all. She paused, looking back at Rebecca, who nodded encouragingly. But sometimes the most painful revelations lead to the greatest healing. Today, we open House of Rebecca, named for my mother who spent 23 years separated from her family, living as Sister Mercy while her memories of us remained just out of reach. The audience, a mix of investors, Chicago dignitaries, and young women who would be the first residents of the new facility, applauded warmly. This center will provide housing, education, and support for young women aging out of foster care, those escaping dangerous home situations, and others who need a safe transition to independence. The services offered here reflect our family's journey: therapy to heal past trauma, education to build future security, and community to remind these young women that they are never truly alone. As Chloe continued her speech, Rebecca reflected on the whirlwind year that had brought them to this moment. After giving her statement to the police, she had returned to St. Catherine's to discuss her future with Mother Agnes. The elderly nun had embraced her with tears, telling her that God works in mysterious ways. "You came to us lost and broken," Mother Agnes had said. "Now you've been found. Your vows were made by Sister Mercy, not Rebecca Hunter. You're free to follow your heart back to your family." The transition hadn't been easy. 23 years of convent life had shaped Rebecca profoundly. The noise and pace of the outside world overwhelmed her at first. She had stayed in Betty's apartment initially, sleeping on the couch while she and Chloe underwent the complex process of becoming reacquainted as mother and daughter. Henry had been patient, never pushing for more than Rebecca could give. They had started with coffee, then lunch, then long walks along the lakefront where they had once been so happy. Slowly, memories had continued to surface. Their first meeting at the charity auction, moving into his apartment, the joy when they discovered she was pregnant. Barbara's trial had been another ordeal. Facing her in court, Rebecca had testified about that rainy night at Navy Pier, about the argument, the push, the desperate struggle to survive. Samuel had corroborated her account with what he had overheard, and the diary had provided further evidence of Barbara's motives. The financial crimes had been easier to prove. Once investigators knew where to look, they uncovered decades of embezzlement, and when a disgruntled former employee of Barbara's came forward with evidence linking her to the hotel fire, her fate was sealed. Now Barbara Callahan was serving a lengthy prison sentence. Her empire of wealth and influence crumbled to nothing. Chloe's voice brought Rebecca back to the present. "I'd like to thank the person who made all this possible, not just financially but spiritually. My father, Henry Callahan, who never stopped looking for answers, never stopped hoping for reunion." Henry rose to join Chloe at the podium, embracing his daughter before addressing the crowd. When Chloe first proposed using her inheritance to create this center, "I'll admit I was surprised," he said with a self-deprecating smile. "The Callahan family has always been more about accumulating wealth than sharing it. But my daughter reminded me that true legacy isn't measured in dollars or real estate holdings." He looked at Rebecca and Betty. "It's measured in the lives we touch, the love we share, and the healing we bring to a broken world. House of Rebecca stands as testament to that truth." As the ceremonial ribbon was cut, and the crowd moved inside for tours, Betty found herself beside a group of sisters from St. Catherine's Convent who had made the journey for the opening. "She seems happy," Mother Agnes observed, watching Rebecca move through the crowd, occasionally touching Henry's arm or smiling at something Chloe said. "She's finding her way," Betty agreed. "Some days are harder than others. She still prays the hours sometimes, still keeps to herself when the world gets too loud." "And you?" Mother Agnes asked. "How are you adjusting to sharing your granddaughter after all these years of being her only family?" Betty smiled, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening. "The Lord works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? For 25 years I lived in fear that someone would take Chloe from me. Now I have more family than I ever dreamed possible." Inside, the first group of residents, 10 young women ranging from 18 to 22, were being shown their new apartments. Each unit was simple but beautifully furnished, with large windows overlooking either the lake or the city skyline. Rebecca found Chloe in what would be the center's library, already stocked with books on everything from practical life skills to literature and history. "You've done something remarkable here," Rebecca said, taking in the thoughtfully designed space. "I'm so proud of you." Chloe turned, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I couldn't have done it without you, all of you. Dad's business connections, your insights from counseling at the convent, Grandma Betty's practical wisdom." Rebecca embraced her daughter, still marveling at the miracle of their reunion. "Your father tells me you've decided to go back to school in the spring." Chloe nodded. "Social work. I want to really understand how to help the women who will live here." "Following in your mother's footsteps," came Henry's voice from the doorway. "Rebecca was studying early childhood education when we met." He joined them, and Rebecca felt a now familiar warmth at his presence. They weren't quite a couple again. Too much time had passed. Too much had changed. but the connection between them remained, evolving into something new and unexpectedly precious. "The first residents are settling in," Henry reported. "The director thinks we can expand to full capacity by next month." 25 women, Chloe said, satisfaction evident in her voice. "One for each year we were separated." As they returned to the main gathering, Samuel Green approached, looking distinguished despite his age. After testifying against Barbara, he had accepted a position as groundskeeper for the new center, his expertise with plants transforming the once barren courtyard into a garden of surprising beauty. "Mrs. Rebecca," he greeted her warmly, "the sisters were asking about those rose bushes you wanted planted by the east entrance." "Thank you. Samuel, I'll speak with them." As he moved away, Rebecca touched the silver pendant at her throat. The complete moon. The two halves finally reunited after Henry had given her his half on her last birthday. Later, as the crowds thinned and the day waned toward evening, the family gathered in Chloe's new office. Betty sat in a comfortable chair, her arthritis making standing for long periods difficult. Henry leaned against the desk, while Rebecca and Chloe arranged a small collection of photographs on the windowsill. There was the faded photograph that Chloe had carried her entire life, Rebecca holding her as a newborn. Beside it stood a new family portrait taken at Christmas, the four of them somewhat awkward but undeniably connected. A photo of Betty in her younger days, standing proudly in front of her first apartment with baby Chloe. And finally, a picture of Sister Mercy with her music students at St. Catherine's, a reminder of the life that had sustained Rebecca through her years of unknowing. "A strange family album," Henry observed, studying the collection. "But a truthful one," Rebecca replied. As twilight settled over the city, they stood together at the window, watching the lights come on across Chicago's skyline. Below them, in the courtyard, several of the new residents gathered around a fire pit, sharing stories and laughter. "I've been thinking," Chloe said, breaking the comfortable silence. "Next summer, we should take that trip to Lake Geneva. All of us together. I want to see the place where you two were happy." Henry's eyes met Rebecca's over their daughter's head. "I think that's a wonderful idea." As the others continued chatting, Rebecca gazed out at the young women in the courtyard, each with her own story of loss, struggle, and hope. In helping them rebuild their lives, perhaps she was also rebuilding something in herself, not the person she had been before the pier, nor Sister Mercy of St. Catherine's, but someone new, someone who carried both those lives within her, along with the love that had somehow survived across 25 years of separation. Outside, one of the young women began to sing, her voice clear in the evening air. Without thinking, Rebecca hummed along, the same lullaby that had first connected her to Chloe in the hospital room a year ago, the melody that had transcended memory itself. Some bonds, she had learned, were stronger than time, stronger than trauma, stronger even than forgetting. Some bonds remained unbroken, waiting only to be rediscovered.